I helped install something called a small diameter bomb system on that. It was a brand new modification for a new weapon. So I spent a significant amount of time on that plane. Imagine you have this jet that's at high altitude, in a dive, in full afterburner, headed towards the ground, and that freaking thing hit the ground and disappeared. You have to be making decisions, and whether it's with business or with family, you have to, as a man, make a decision and then see what happens because of your decision. Learn from it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Beardsmen. My name is Spence.
I'm Mink.
We're the co-founders here at Live Bearded, and we've been friends for nearly 2 decades. And over the last 20 years, we've been having conversations around what it means to be a man in the world today.
Dude, it's crazy to think how fast time goes by, and then also how much your perspective of what it means to be a man and what the world is like.
Totally.
And so we love having these conversations. We brought our friend Justin on today. Spence, why don't you tell the guys a little bit about Justin, who he is, and then let's dive in.
Yeah, I love it. Justin, thank you for joining us. Justin Cross, he is a badass entrepreneur, fitness expert, father, business owner, content creator. I can go on and say all sorts of amazing things about you, but why don't you tell the guys, who is Justin Cross?
Well, thank you. I thought we were just talking about my beard today.
The beard is on point, bro.
Dude, I appreciate it, guys. I've known you guys now for a couple of years, and I've been a big fan of the brand for a long time. And I wanted to start out with that because before I even met you guys, I just resonated with what you guys stood for. When I first moved to Arizona, I had a big old kind of burly, kind of straggly beard before I kind of figured out what it meant to really take care of it.
Yeah.
And I just found your brand, and I was like, I like this. I didn't even know you guys, but I was like, you guys stood for a lot of things outside of just a beard. But like you said, like, what does it mean to be a man, and just being proud of who we are. So I want to thank you guys for making this thing, because it was a big thing for me. I moved out here to start my own business, which is not easy. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest. Yeah. And it's in a kind of a weird roundabout way, like just you guys and this brand existing was kind of like, all right, cool. Part of the support structure behind it, believe it or not.
Dude, I love that. Where'd you first come across us originally? What was the process like?
I think I found it on Instagram somehow.
Okay, yeah.
And then when I saw that you were local, and I was like, oh shit, all right, cool, So I just started following, and then I would, I'd be working on the house or doing whatever I'm doing. And if I thought I had a good picture, I'd tag Live Bearded, and then whoever's on social, maybe it's you guys, would like it or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. And so, it just shows it's just if you have a business or a brand, just a little bit of interaction with the people that like your stuff, and especially tag your brand, goes such a long way, because it just made me into a fan before I even met you guys.
Yeah. And that interaction led to interacting with the brand, and then now fast forward a couple of years, we're all boys, we hang out, we support each other and find ways to connect, and it's like, it's amazing what that first step can do. It's
Isn't
so
it
true.
crazy?
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and like a lot of guys that start business, like they kind of overlook that, or maybe they think they're kind of above it. It's like, no, it's like the point of, in my opinion, of starting, especially if it's a brand. Like you guys have a movement, really. Like we have a movement with Earn Your Booze and Earn It All and the stuff that we do. Like you got to be out there. You got to put yourself out there and recognize the people that are like acknowledging, hey, you exist. I like your stuff. And you guys always did a great job at that, and kind of turned me into a super fan now. So here we are.
Appreciate the support, bro. Beard's looking dialed.
Oh, thank you.
Beard's looking dialed.
Shout out to my guy Parker for helping keep it dialed in.
That's right. All right, so we obviously know a little bit more about your backstory. Yeah. For the guys that don't know anything about you, let's reel it back a little bit. Okay. Wherever you want to kind of pick up, tell us a little backstory about kind of your journey.
So grew up here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Went to Paradise Valley High School.
Yep.
Did not want to do any college after high school. Like I was one of those guys, now that I look back on it, where like I'd go through class and I would do everything, but I never really understood why I was, taking calculus and taking all this stuff. I think I just knew, I was like, I'm never going to use this. Like it's just, and it wasn't that I was like bad in school or anything, but I just didn't understand why I was like spending so much time sitting through shit that I didn't care about. So I didn't want to do college, was kind of the moral of that point. So I was looking at, trade schools and all these other things, and I ended up joining the Navy. And so I went into the Navy in part because I graduated in 2002.
Okay.
So you know what happened in 2001? I was a junior. I was sitting in high school watching basically all the buildings and everything burn down and all that shit, and getting pissed off. And I was looking for a purpose at that point. And I think that's ultimately what, I didn't say it like that, or probably think about it like that at the time. But I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to do something. Like I had always loved to work out. I was an ambitious guy. Like I wanted to do something bigger. And when I saw that unraveling on 9/11, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can do something about that. And so I was working at Sam's Club at the time. It's not there anymore, over on Raintree. And my buddy comes in one day and he's like, hey, I'm joining the Navy. And I was like, oh, no shit, okay. So that really started to connect the dots. So I went and talked to the Marines, talked to the Air Force, and talked to the Navy, and ended up liking the Navy. Joined the Navy, and I got into that right after high school and was in for 4 years. Worked on fighter jets, sailed around the planet, literally from San Diego to Virginia. And that was kind of my entrance into the workforce that got me into what I did with fighter jets for the next decade and a half.
Yep. So coming out of the Navy, learned some skills, and that kind of started your professional career out of that?
Yeah, so when I got in the Navy, I went in 2002, and I got one of the oldest squadrons that we had of F-14s. You guys know the original Top Gun, right? Those were F-14s, Tomcats. We actually had some of those in Japan. They were old ass jets. Some of them were from the Vietnam era.
Wow.
But they were in great shape. We were flying them.
Rip them around?
Yeah,
No
they were badass. And there was something about that jet, just so iconic, I'm sure we probably all like Top Gun,
Yeah.
I always say it's the greatest movie of all time, I'm a little biased, but.
One of the best. And Maverick was like a rival. That was one of the few movies that came out after the fact that was as good as the first.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things in Maverick. The opening scene, I was like, you gotta be shitting me. What is going on here? Nobody ejects at Mach 10 and doesn't explode.
All right, man, that's a little far-fetched.
But, I mean, we can get into that if you remind me later. We had a lot of mishaps, throughout, Navy, and then I did 10 years in classified aerospace programs for Lockheed Martin afterwards. And shit goes wrong all the time, but I think that experience really started to kind of mold me into who I am today. I wanted a higher sense of purpose. I found it in the Navy, but then I didn't want to stay in the Navy and just sail around the world every year. And, I knew it was going to be almost impossible to have a family, so I'm grateful for the time I was in, even though while you're in, you kind of feel like you're in prison. You're on a 6,000 man floating prison essentially, and it's insane. And there's literally flesh-eating diseases, and just you're eating stuff that's only meant for people in prison or, military. I don't know how deep you want to get into all that stuff, but that really started to form who I was as a young man.
6,000. I mean, you're stuck on there out at sea for how many? Fill me in here. Excuse my ignorance, but you'd go out, you'd be out in the water. How long? Walk us through what that experience is like. I mean, to compare it to literally out at sea in a prison and eating meals that are made for prison and or our servicemen. And what is that experience like?
Yeah, so we did a couple of things called what do we call them? They're workups.
Okay.
So before you go on a big world cruise, you have to essentially practice. It's mostly for the fighter jet pilots that have to practice launching and recovering, landing on an aircraft carrier. It's a crazy thing. It's a controlled crash, essentially. You guys know how that works with the arresting wire and all that kind of stuff. It's way different than just, having a mile-long runway and slowly gliding down. So we go out and as a squadron and as a ship, we go out and we practice, and that's about a month at a time. So we'd go off the coast of San Diego. We'd go, for a month, maybe a month and a half, launch and recover, just practice what we're doing to get ready. And then when it comes time to do a world cruise, I did one world cruise in 2005.
Okay.
We took off from San Diego, Coronado, and went basically, literally around the planet, but we stopped a few places in Guam, then went over to the Persian Gulf, operated there for a while, supported Operation Iraqi Freedom, and whatever the hell else was going on then in 2005. I don't remember right now. You might know. Yeah, so all of that. And then it was pretty neat, though, because that whole thing, to answer your question, was about 7.5 months.
Okay.
So you're out for 7.5 months. You work 7 days on, 7 off, 12-hour shifts. You have either a day shift or a night shift. Yeah. But when you got to go to port every once in a while, and you'd spend 3 or 4 days in Guam, Dubai, Singapore, Guam, a lot of cool places like that.
Good to see the world.
A lot of weird places, actually, because you pull into, a military port, essentially, or a base, and then they want you to kind of stay there and, have some food and have fun. But me and my guys, we'd be like, nope. We're going to go see what this place is really like. We go get in a taxi and
Let's go
for an hour or two and just go find stuff completely off the reservation and had a good time. But it's a long time. It's 7.5 months.
Damn. What do you think about that experience gave you, any values or habits that you carried into your professional career from that experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably one thing that came out of it was, relationships with people. Because you're in there, when you start, everybody, and especially when you're in you call it our shop. I was an avionics guy, so I worked on weapons and communications and radar and stuff like that on the jets. Yep. So I had a shop of, on each shift there was probably, if I remember correctly, let's say 12 guys, 15 guys maybe. you know all those guys when you first start. By the end of the cruise, you've fought basically every one of them. You've hated each guy at some point, and now you're friends with a couple of them again, and everything's cool. But you're stuck on there. And imagine, like, as much as like we like each other and hanging out and stuff, if we woke up and the first thing you saw was us, and then we went down and ate breakfast together, and then we stood in line for the shower, and then we went in to work for 12 hours. And then we got off of work and ate again.
No break.
And then we went to the
break.
gym together.
Yeah.
And then, shower again. And then you get back to your rack and, you change, and then you go to bed, and like you do that every day for months. Eventually you can't stand the sight of something happens.
Yeah.
And it's all stupid shit. It's not stuff that, like, there's no grudges afterwards or anything. But while you're there, it's kind of crazy. And another reason I say it's kind of like prison is you do kind of like get into these little cliques, because it's about 1,000-foot ship. But we had about 6,000 guys on it from different squadrons. We had ship company, helicopters, fighter jets, all these different things. And there'd just be, for whatever reason, little groups of guys that you didn't like. Yeah. So as you're walking to the gym, you'd have to go through this squadron's area in the hangar bay, and they'd be talking shit, and you'd be talking shit, and trying to get, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
But you're all on the same team. You're all over there fighting. You're all trying to, you're all in line for the same mission that's on, in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever. But at the time, it's a pretty high testosterone environment, and like everyone's just has nothing to do except work out and work and eat. And but that's one thing I took away from that is, it is important to treat people a certain way. And especially guys that you are doing, big things with, like you guys in business, like you work together every day.
Yeah.
And inevitably there's going to be arguments and maybe heated arguments and stuff like that, but like you're still aligned for the same mission. Yep. So as long as you stick with that, like whatever, like you can't take it too personal to where you like anyone's trying to like quit or leave or anything.
Yeah, I think ultimately one of the most important things to learn through this journey is friction is what creates growth.
Yeah.
And you've got to have some level of friction or challenge or frustration in order to create the opportunity for the breakthrough.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So you did that whole experience, then you went private sector, 10 years, classified aviation stuff, which I don't know how much of that you can share, but ultimately where that led you to is you're creating a company called Earn Your Booze and Earn It All, which is really around uplifting, encouraging, and challenging men primarily to be the best that they can be, and most importantly, earn their stripes. Right. How did you get from prison, military ship, traveling around the world, private sector, classified, secret shit, to like all the way to celebrating masculinity and helping men become the best they can be?
Well, you outlined it pretty well. It's a freaking journey. You go into the military, especially if you're going into the military instead of college. And like my mom, and it was like, okay, cool. He's going to be a military guy. He's solid, and she was a school teacher. So she's like, good. He's, got a career and all this stuff. And as long as he's safe, everything's fine. When I decided to get out, it was like, oh, are you sure, honey? Like you want to get out? But like I said, I didn't want to be in that environment forever. And so I did actually want to come back here and go to ASU because I didn't want to do college, like I said, after high school. But I was like, okay, now I'm ready.
Yeah.
I had 4 years. I've sailed around the planet. I've done some stuff. I think now I'm kind of mature and calm enough to go to college.
Yeah.
So I was planning to come back here to go to ASU, but I just put a resume out on, do you guys remember Monster.com?
Yeah.
I put a resume out on Monster, and Lockheed Martin, the world's largest defense contractor, they do fighter jets, satellites, software, weapons, tanks, like everything. They started to hit me up. And so I interviewed for like an F-16 program, but they wanted me to get out of the Navy early. Couldn't do that. But long story short, I was like, I don't know, maybe I don't need to do college. Maybe I could just go right into the workforce right now. So that's what I did. I ended up taking a job on the F-22 program. It's called the flight test program. So when you have a brand new fighter jet, like an F-22 at the time, it has to be run through a series of tests, like on everything. Because Lockheed Martin, they make it. They're like the car manufacturer, right? They manufacture the jet. They essentially think they know where the limits are on it, like how fast it can go, how many G's it can pull, what are safe angles to, and speed to drop a certain weapon, like all this stuff. But it's kind of like a best guess.
Based on the engineering, basically,
Yeah, so we exist in flight test to essentially say, okay, that's nice, but let's see what it can really do.
Yeah.
And so first we have to instrument that plane, which means we record everything on it. So any little stress on the structure, all of the data coming from the computer, because it's a flying supercomputer, like anything and everything that happens on that plane when we fly it, we capture and record it so we can analyze that data afterwards. But we do that because then we're going to go push that jet beyond where Lockheed says is acceptable or safe, and literally just see what happens and look for problems. So it's really neat. I kind of got hooked on that because essentially that you're taking like this, hundreds of millions of dollar assets each, and you're sending them up into the air and doing these crazy missions literally to see what happens.
Just full send.
See what's going to break. Yeah, and shit would break and you'd be like, oh, well, okay, how, why, so you bring it back and you have a whole team of engineers analyzing that data, trying to figure out what went wrong, what do we need to fix, what do we need to change, what do we need to modify. And this again is like physical structures, so like why is the paint melting off at this speed? What's wrong? Like what can we possibly fix about it? Or how come this software isn't working? Software engineers get to work on this thing. Or how come these systems aren't talking? Or all those different things.
Yeah.
I totally got hooked on it because we were essentially trying to break these jets and see what happens and make it better. So the whole reason behind it, in a nutshell, is before it goes to the Air Force, because that's Air Force only, United States only. We don't share it with any other countries. Like that's our like Lamborghini of the sky. That's our big dog fighter jet, right? But before we give it to the Air Force, we have to know what the real parameters are, the real safety limits are, the real capabilities are, so they can get out there and have the best chance of winning and fighting, and coming back. And it's a lot of fun to really try to figure out where that is.
What was the, so you said you're trying to find the limit and where things break. Yeah. Can you share any stories of where you found the limit and some shit went down? Yeah, I'll give you
kind of a shitty story because they're very high stakes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's as simple as, you're flying at a certain speed and bank and whatnot and dropping a bomb, and you want to make sure that it comes out of the internal weapons bay without hitting the door. Because they're not, like, even this is how basic some of it is. They're not sure what the wind swirl is like up in the bay, because this jet has never flown at this altitude and speed and bank and dropping this kind of weapon. So the first time you drop the weapon, you're like, is it going to come out perfectly? Or is it going to bounce around and take the door off? So even stuff like that you have to test. And sometimes that did happen. There'd be little damages, and so when you come back, you'd go and analyze things and figure out, okay, how do we fix it, and then how do we correct it? But the biggest one, a very unfortunate one, the first ship, they called them ships, Ship 8 that I worked on, I helped install something called a small diameter bomb system on that. It was a brand new modification for a new weapon. So I spent a significant amount of time on that plane. I learned how to do all these different rivets and all these different things and structural stuff that an avionics guy never did. So I was just eating it up. And then since I was an avionics guy, I also got to go in the cockpit when it was time to test dropping those bombs into the pit. I got to be the one up there with the headphones on during this little test thing on the ground, drop them off into the pit. It was super cool, right? But one time we were up testing that plane, and they were testing a pretty high risk maneuver. So the jet was up pretty high, and he basically turns down, and the idea was to come down and I believe have a weapon deploy at a certain angle. But it was a very high G pull, and he's coming down, and the pilot blacked out.
Oh shit!
And so as the plane's coming around like this, and so these planes, there's two engines, over 40,000 pounds of thrust each, so 80,000 pounds of thrust. It's the fastest jet in the air, and he gets the jet as he's essentially passing out, going down. Shit. And he passes out, and so now the plane is going down, and he's already at decent speed, power we call it, on the throttles. And he's going down, and they're like, so we have this whole thing called a control room that's watching. And so they're looking at all the live data. They're looking at whatever, video we have we have a chase plane. We have an F-16 that will literally chase our planes for safety and just to watch what's going on in real time. And it's apparent something bad is happening. So they're getting him up, and he wakes up, and he's at a speed and altitude and descent that's irrecoverable. And so he punches, he ejects, and there's only one pilot in it. So he ejects, and as he ejects, probably the rocket booster from the seat pushes those throttles all the way up to burner. One of them goes all the way, the other one goes just right under all the way. So now imagine you have this jet that's at high altitude, in a dive, in full afterburner, headed towards the ground. And that freaking thing hit the ground and disappeared into the sand, into the Mojave Desert up in north of LA. It just imagine if you take like even a marble and go to the beach in San Diego and drop it.
Engulfs it.
You know, you don't, so you imagine like, oh man, it was a big explosion and all this. And there were some people that saw like some black smoke for a minute, but you go to the crash site and you're just like, there's almost nothing. There's just
Holy
like little
shit.
pieces and whatnot. And, but unfortunately he was going so fast, the ejection killed him.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Cause you can only eject it at a certain speed. And he was going significantly fast. And I believe it hit the ground over Mach. So it's just like, I mean, you wouldn't have even seen it. You know, if you're driving along, it would just like, what the hell was that? A little smoke, you know, something, truck blow up. Like, no, it was a freaking fighter jet disappearing into the ground.
Damn.
Wow.
So to answer your question, that was the worst for sure. You know, we lost Mr. Cools was his name, and lost the first jet I worked on.
Damn.
And that thing, and the other thing about it is, it's not just like the cost of like an average F-22. Once you instrument it and add all of this recording capability and all this stuff, there are many, many, many millions more of dollars that thing is worth, because it's a very specialized instrumented test vehicle at that point.
Yeah.
So it's a huge deal. So big stand down and everything. But it's crazy. And after that, they were like, okay, let's figure out what happened. So we have this flight simulator that I actually got to do, because I used to run engines on the F-22, like to ops check them on the ground. And so you had to go to the flight simulator to practice like warnings. So like if you're like pretend like you're in a simulator and you're flying along, or you're just doing an engine check, they would simulate, oh, you got a fire in engine one. What do you do? And you have to start to practice your checklist to get out of it safely. As they were doing the simulator afterwards to see what went wrong during that maneuver when Cools died, I forget how many, but it was multiple attempts. None of them made it. And it wasn't even based on, it was just like, it's such a dangerous maneuver. It became apparent, they're like, all right, why the hell were we even doing that maneuver?
Wow.
But unfortunately, that's kind of like the name of the game. It's like, we're out here, maintaining air superiority, and we have a brand new Lamborghini of the sky. We need to know what it needs to do, but shit goes wrong, and we would do everything, like I said, from sometimes melting the stealth coatings off to just having software issues that would keep us grounded, or unfortunately losing planes sometimes.
What's up, guys? Spence here, co-founder of Live Bearded, and we wanted to take a quick break to let you know that this show is sponsored by Live Bearded. Meek and I started Live Bearded back in 2016. We're on a mission to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best. So if you find value out of the show, if you have a beard or know someone who does, do us a favor and share livebearded.com. Go to the website, check us out. We've got the best beard products money can buy. All right, guys, back to the show.
When you think back to that time and those, like, you're talking about pushing the limits, breaking the limits, obviously, losing colleagues and friends. How do you translate something like that into everyday life, right? Because I really believe, like, you don't know what your limit is until you push beyond what it currently is.
Yeah.
So to some degree, we have to be willing to go too far in order to find how far we can go. But that, like, the life or death doesn't necessarily always apply in real life. But as men, every day with families, with businesses, how do you think about those early days and apply them to today?
You got to be in the game. Like Teddy Roosevelt's speech, like the man in the arena, is one of my favorite things, because he talks about the guys or girls, whoever, that are in whatever the game is, they get to experience defeat and hopefully victory. So they experience the full spectrum. The people that are in the stands, they don't know victory or defeat. Like, they're just sitting there, just talking and watching and whatnot. So you got to be in the game. Like, you have to be making decisions, and whether it's with business or with family, you have to, as a man, make a decision and then see what happens because of your decision. Learn from it. Live with the ramifications, good, bad, or otherwise. But the only way to do that is to actually be in the game. You can't be on the sidelines and just kind of researching and Googling forever and just, just conceptualizing what you're going to do if you want to be successful or have a big family or all this kind of stuff. You got to actually be doing it. And I think a lot of guys need to realize that almost everybody has another step to take to get further into the game.
Yeah, dude, I love that, and I feel like you're wearing actions over the words. We're twinning today. I like this style. Actions over words is one of your values, right? As a company, I feel like being in the game and taking action is so critical for men, right? To be in the game, like, you actually have to take action. You can talk and theorize about things all day long, but until you actually take action, like, to me, that's what it's all about. Walk us through maybe how you define actions over words, or I don't know how you phrase it, actions are greater over words, but what that means to you.
Yeah, I say action over words because, and this applies to freaking anything, and everything, I should say. Again, like, if you're not taking action, like what does that mean you're doing? It means you're not taking action. So how would you possibly be evolving? How would you possibly be growing? How would you possibly be learning if you're not taking action? It's impossible. So especially if you're someone that has big aspirations for a business or life, the only thing, and usually the common denominator, or the separator, I should say, between people that are successful and are winning and are learning and doing things and they're in the arena, and the people that are not, is that they're just simply not taking action. But so many guys are so, I believe, stuck that they won't take the first step. And, this is where, you got to have usually some one-on-one conversations with people to find out why. But I think in general, a lot of men are just lacking the confidence that they need. And they think they have it because maybe they're in great shape, or maybe they have money, or maybe whatever. But I think, like, if you're not taking action, I think that's a sign of low confidence in yourself, low belief in yourself. It's not good enough essentially to just kind of conceptualize things. You have to actually get after it.
Yeah. It's such a good point. I think when we believe in ourselves, action is the natural progression from that. And when we don't, to your point, like hesitation, fear, doubt, I have definitely spent a lot of time in my life struggling with that level of confidence. Like, can I do this? Should I do this? Am I not good enough? Who do I think I am? And one of the things that really changed for me is just really defining what confidence actually means. And I love it. If you look up the root word of confidence, it's fidere, which in Latin means with trust. So all confidence is having trust in something. And ultimately, I think if anybody out there has struggled with confidence, like all of us have, right? How do you develop trust with yourself in a particular area? Typically, it's through actions over time, right? You develop a competence, and through competence, you have trust in that action, and then that default is, or the natural extension of that is, a level of confidence, right? I know you do a lot of work with men. You've got a retreat where you guys take them out into the wild. You do a bunch of really cool shit. Talk to us about how you do certain things to help men progress that confidence.
Man, great question and great lead up. Most guys, again, are lacking confidence, whether they know it or not.
Yeah. Maybe whether they have the courage to admit with others, right? Because that ego comes into play, and as men, we've got to kind of, posture or pose. But if you can strip away the bullshit and just be honest with yourself.
The other interesting thing about it is they might not even necessarily see it as a lack of confidence, but it might just be they're sitting in a level of comfort that they're unwilling to get rid of.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, I'm a confident guy. I've got this all together. I'm in good shape and I've got this and that. But okay, well, how come you're not doing that? They don't want to give up that comfort. But it's because they're not confident that they're going to get through it and get a better result on the other end of ditching that comfort. So what we do at True North in Sedona essentially is we have a couple pillars: purpose, or direction, purpose, action, and resilience. So if you think about men, we all need direction. A lot of guys are missing direction. Purpose is a very difficult one for a lot of people to define, And back to my high school story, I think that's what I was looking for. I wanted a purpose. I didn't just want to jump in and become a cog in a machine. I wanted to do something, which is why I joined the Navy. So direction, purpose, and then action, we've talked about a lot. But then once you start taking action on whatever it is, you have to be resilient because it's extremely difficult, whatever it is. So that's what we essentially put together at True North through physical, mental, spiritual, and tactical skill sets and experiences and stuff like that. And the reason we do such a wide range of things, like this is not, True North is not just like a big boot camp, like beat up like you see like some brands do. Like if some guys want that and they feel like they want that experience, cool, go do it. Like go test it out, why not, But we take some of that and we merge it in with mental work, with spiritual work, with a bunch of different things. And the main reason being is nobody can hide from themselves where they're there. Somebody could show up in great shape with a lot of money and a loving family and all this kind of stuff and look like they have the perfect life. But as you go through all the different things, something is going to get to you and just be like, oh man, I do have some shit to work on. Maybe some stuff that's buried internally, or maybe some stuff that you've just wanted to get off your chest that if you do, it's going to help you get to another level. Or we have guys that show up that are like, I'm actually struggling and I need to be around some strong men. I just need to get out of my environment because where I'm at, I feel like kind of stuck. So we put this together, and it's so much fun to see literally doctors and athletes and all sorts of business owners, all sorts of people. It doesn't matter what you do for work. When we get there, we all put on the same shirt. We all do the same thing. Me, Adam, and Amadon, the guys that I run True North with, we do everything. So we're not just standing there saying, go do this, and then we watch. We're in it together the entire time for 5 days. And every single person that has gone through it is just like, they're blown away.
Yeah.
Because they see something in themselves that is there that needs to be addressed to go to another level. And it could be a spiritual thing. We do things like breath work, we do sweat lodges, but we also have Rangers and SEALs come up and do special weapons tactics. We do a lot of cool stuff. You know, we do big rucks and hikes and eat very well. We have chefs that live on the property with us. But the whole goal of that thing is to help each individual guy kind of unlock from wherever they're at so they can free themselves to go to the next level. Yeah,
it's interesting. I think your point of we need like a mirror. We can't escape from ourselves.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we're in that comfort, right, we don't have the mirror, we don't have the life conditions that reflect back to us maybe where we truly are. And as you're speaking, I remember the main reason why I started my first company was I wanted to be able to travel. And so once my whole goal was like, I'm gonna make $100 a day. And then once I was making enough money, I sold everything and I bought a one-way ticket. And I spent 7 years traveling and living all around the world. And I remember like a few years into this journey, I had this realization because I had the exact same pattern of behavior that was playing out over and over. So I'd get to somewhere new, I'd be so excited. Oh my God, I'm gonna go look here. I'm gonna live in Costa Rica. I'm gonna try this. Oh, I got to Thailand. This is amazing. But eventually the newness would wear off.
Yeah.
And then I'd get antsy and I'd be like, fuck, I don't know, man. This is like, it's cool, but like, I don't think this is my place.
Yeah.
I need to go someplace else. And I had this play out over and over and over. And then finally I had this realization. I was like, Anthony, no matter where you go, you take yourself with you. And so that disturbance that you're feeling, that unsettledness, that's you. And no place or no condition outside of you will fix that inside of you. And so what I love about what you're talking about is oftentimes the only way that we get that experience and the perspective to understand like the unsettledness inside of us, or maybe where we do need to be challenged or reflected back, is through these unique or dynamic experiences by having the courage to do something we've never done and then see what comes back.
Totally. And even getting around a group of guys, like think about when's the last time that you were with 30 guys, men only, no booze, no ego, nothing, and you were just spent a couple days together doing difficult things and watching how other guys, put up with physical, challenges, mental challenges, watching someone else have a breakthrough and sitting there and listening, letting somebody else talk. When's the last time a lot of guys have done that? Like it's very rare.
Yeah. Super rare.
It's super rare. So, you get even some of that is just like, oh man, this is a little uncomfortable sitting here for an hour and a half listening to everyone talk about a certain kind of thing. But you get done and you're just like, oh man, that actually was very beneficial. Like I haven't done that. I haven't allowed myself to listen.
Yeah.
I haven't allowed myself to share. So it's some of that stuff, but then it's also, okay, now we're going to go out and get in cold water and get beat up, So,
One of the things I want to talk a little more about that I love that you guys are doing is you're not just guiding these men through this experience and saying, do this, do that, take the orders, but you're in the trenches with them, experiencing it together. Yeah. Talk to us about why you guys set up that way and why it's so important that you guys are doing it with them versus just telling them what to do from above.
Yeah, a real leader develops other leaders, and I think the only real way to do that is to lead by example. So the last thing I'm willing to do is to, put this experience together and tell you guys to do something and sit there and watch. Like, why wouldn't I be in the dirt?
Totally.
Why wouldn't I be punching the mannequin? Why wouldn't I be doing this or that, And it also, the guys see that. So even though it's not necessarily explicitly stated like we're doing this for fill in the blank, like why we participate, it's pretty cool. Like when the guys that are leading the thing are right next to you, suffering just like you are through whatever it is, or they're answering the same kind of questions, they're on the hike, they're doing the things. I think that's one way that a lot of guys are like, oh, okay. It's not just, show up and lead. It's like, no, I need to do what he's doing. I need to lead other people, but I need to lead myself first. So that's the main reason.
Yeah. And I'm sure the experience you have is just as powerful as they're having because you're going through it too. And it's easy for you to be like, oh, I've hosted these, I've done these, but you got shit you got to continue to check in on and continue to develop, right? So every time you go through it, I'm sure, because I've been in similar situations, like we're never through the shit.
No.
And so there's always more work to do.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing that you get to like roll your sleeves up, get dirty with the boys, and like go to work together.
Yeah. It's challenging. Like I leave there. It's usually about 2 days later that I'll kind of crash and sleep for a whole day. Because we're doing everything, but then when they're on break or on having lunch or sleeping or whatever,
back end
checking
ops,
the itinerary,
things,
whiteboard upstairs. We got this badass 5-acre property with multiple houses that we have like a facilitator house essentially. So me and the guys were in there like tweaking things and changing this and everything, and from the other perspective of watching other guys go through things and having these, especially the positive stuff, having someone like, man, I've been wanting to say that for 15 years. I finally did it. And you hear these, one-on-one side conversations that they're telling you how much that's a lot to carry,
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, but it's kind of draining.
Yeah.
So I leave there feeling kind of like in like a flow state because one, I got to do all the same work, but then two, you see the impact you're having on other guys, and it's the most incredible feeling. It's insane.
Let's dig into that a little bit, because obviously knowing a little bit more about your backstory. You used to host big fitness events. You've obviously done e-com merch. There's a lot of ways to generate revenue.
Yeah.
There's way more of there's a bigger mission behind this, because it's a lot more work. It's intense. You're carrying all that emotional weight, the physical weight to host these guys. And it's a small group of men.
Yeah.
Very intimate.
Yeah.
So you're not driving it necessarily from the business perspective, but there's clearly a mission or purpose or fulfillment there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the first brand, Earn Your Booze, was a kind of a work hard, play hard brand that came from me being a sailor. Because what do they say? Sailors cuss and drink. It's definitely true. But we also, at least I did, like to work out a lot too. And that earn it mentality kind of started for me in the Navy. It's like, oh, we're pulling into Guam for 4 days. We're gonna drink our faces off. Cool. I'm gonna hit the gym extra hard. You know what I mean? I want to make sure I look good in the beach or just whatever. So that first brand, Earn Your Booze, launched in 2017 with a T-shirt. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to just do a T-shirt brand. I want people to feel and experience what this really means. So our first event was on Veterans Day weekend in 2017 at Scottsdale Beer Company, which no longer exists because it didn't make it through COVID, unfortunately. My friend Doug owned that. Yeah. But it was a big CrossFit workout, followed by right inside having a talk about what to eat when you drink, and free drink or two or whatever, and just a social hour. It was a kind of a like-minded group of people, and that kind of evolved and just kind of went nuts for the first couple of years. And we were doing events in a bunch of different states. We did everything from boot camps to yoga, CrossFit, like you name it, hikes, all sorts of stuff. But it was around that work hard, play hard mentality. I was really trying to get people to work harder and maybe earn or enjoy a little bit less.
Tilt the scales a little bit.
Yeah. So trying to kind of level that out a little bit, but really pushing that earn mentality, especially when it came to physical health and fitness and how you look at booze. Because a lot of people that drink, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen, a lot of them that drink on a regular basis, they are drinking because they're trying to create some more fun and excitement in their life, because maybe they're not getting it out of their job or whatever else they do with their day. Yep. And so they crack a bottle because this feels good, it's fun, I let loose, and it's all that. But I'm like, well, hang on. What if we went the other route? And what if you got your life squared away that was kicking ass, where your health was awesome, your family was awesome, your money, your business was awesome, your life was great? Then if you decided to drink, it's just like adding a little gas to a badass burning fire. Like, it's fun. It's just adding to it. You're not trying to create the excitement. The excitement is already there because you've earned it through your life, and now you're just having a little more fun. So that's the mentality behind Earn Your Booze. But man, we were doing events all over the place, having a blast. That got shut down by COVID because we couldn't do any more events apparently. But that was a blast. That I used that essentially to grow the apparel brand. We had paid sponsors. We sold tickets sometimes. Sometimes they were free because the sponsors wanted a free event, so they'd have to pay extra for that. Yep. But we used that brand to essentially grow like our first, base following of people, our first movement. That went away for a while for COVID, but we got all online then, so just e-com. So I learned a shitload about e-com, which is not an easy business. You guys have definitely seemed to master that. Because when I went online, strictly online, everybody else did for COVID. Everybody was online.
The thing to do.
Yeah, this is the thing to do. So basically, back to your question, the main thing that we do now is Earn It All and Earn It All Health. Because at the core of everything is a healthier, more capable body that is hopefully going to live a longer, more enjoyable life. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. Nothing really freaking matters if you're sick or if you're dead. Who freaking cares? Everything is over at that point, you know? So our goal is to get people as healthy as possible. So we have, you know, $97 programs all the way up to $30,000 programs with everything in between, with the craziest cutting edge science of everything you can imagine. All the biohacking stuff you've ever heard and all that, we have teams of doctors, PhDs, and specialists that do all that stuff with genetics and all these crazy things. And so that's our main business. But True North, like you said, is kind of more of a passion project. We definitely still make money on it, but we use that money to keep growing it and help spreading the word, because every single guy that has come through has said, this changed my life. Yeah. We've had a handful of guys, this saved my life. And when you see that kind of impact, you're like, well, you can't stop. Yeah. You can't slow down.
I want to ask you a question about that specifically. So you're going through these experiences. What do you think is the one or two things that most guys are holding on to that if they let go of or broke through would create that next level of change?
For a lot of guys, it's guilt or shame about something.
Okay.
Maybe something they've done in their life or something they're hiding or whatever. That's definitely a big one. Yeah. And then the other one for guys is probably just getting the green light that you can be who you are. You know, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to grow a beard and, you know, just try to get as big and jacked as possible and shoot guns and all that. Like it doesn't matter. Like a lot of guys are just suppressing who they really are because they don't think it fits in to society or it's not going to be acceptable. And so when they see that from all walks of life, like this guy is a tennis pro. This guy over here is an Army Ranger. This guy is a billionaire entrepreneur. This guy over here, I don't even know what he does. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's another big thing that comes out of it is like, no, it's okay to be you. Yeah. And you should be. Why do you want to fit in? Like the last thing I want is to fit in, you know, with all the different fish in the sea. I'll be your twin today, you know, that's cool. But I think guys, you know, especially that have big ambitions, like you need to stand out. Yeah. And if you're just trying to do what everyone says you should do or say what you need to say and, you know, just kind of like stay with the status quo, yeah, it's never going to happen.
Hey guys, Mink here, and I want to take a quick break from the conversation to tell you about our sponsor, Live Bearded. Spence and I started Live Bearded in 2016, and our mission from day one has been simple. We want to help beardsmen look, feel, and be their best, both with their grooming and in life. And with that, that's one of the reasons why we started the Beardsmen, because we love having these conversations about what it means to be a man today. So if you have a beard, if you want to participate in this conversation and you want to look and feel your best, go to livebearded.com, check out our products. I guarantee you will love them. And if you don't, we've got a 365-day money-back guarantee. But I promise you will. So check us out, livebearded.com. Now let's get back to the show. So figuring out a way or getting to a place where you can let go of some shame and guilt from your past.
That's a big one, yeah.
And then getting to a place where you can truly have the courage to accept who you are and be that dude.
Yeah.
Those two things.
Dude, so imagine that. If anyone listening, just imagine. Yeah. If whatever that thing is in the back of your head or your heart, or wherever you feel it, that guilt or that shame or that thing you're not proud of, imagine if it was finally addressed head on. And you didn't just keep hiding and moving around it. Imagine if you looked it in the eye and whatever, you can get vulgar, whatever it takes. You know, we do breath work and sweat lodges and all these different things, and something is going to help address it. But imagine if that thing is finally gone. Like for real, it's gone. Yeah. Like it's not just ignored anymore. It's actually gone. And you knew that you could just go out there and say what you want to say, be who you want to be, dress how you want to dress, look how you want to look, hang out with the people you want to hang out with, and actually do what you want to do in life. That's freedom. So if you can earn that level of freedom, even just that, that's all internal. Earn that internal freedom, dude, your life will change.
It's controllable.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Dude, it's powerful.
Yeah. So one of the questions we love to ask is, what do you think it means to be a man? And maybe particularly, what does it mean to be a man? And then how does that man show up in the world today?
Well, there is a big difference between men and women. Yes. So we have to make sure that people understand that. I don't know what happened the last couple of years, how that kind of got blurry. But I think it's beautiful that we have a difference, major differences, you know, and down to our chromosomes and our DNA. Like we are much different than our counterparts, women. And I'm not saying we're better or anything. We're just different. So one is accepting that. But then like, okay, well, what does that mean? You know, I have a wife. We've been married for 11 years. I've got 3 kids. And, you You know, I'm the only guy in the house besides our 2 little tiny dogs. You know, so when I look at just my little environment of my house, that means, okay, like I need to, above all, protect. So what does that mean? That means I need to be healthy. I need to be strong. I need to have certain skills, you know, and it doesn't mean I have to be a black belt or anything, but I know my body pretty well. I can handle myself decently, you know, and I practice with weapons and I do these things because if shit were ever to hit the fan for my family, this is where I like to start, like what it means to be a man, I need to know that I have the best chance to take care of them, you know? So I think we got to start there. Like, what are you responsible for? And it's usually the ones closest to you. So are you able to provide for them and protect them? So I think in that regard, that's step one.
Yeah, foundational.
Yeah, which is why we go back to health and fitness. Like, are you healthy?
Yeah.
Can your family rely on you to wake up and have the energy to do whatever needs to be done? And I don't like to think too morbidly or too crazy, you know, apocalyptic and type stuff, but let's be real. Like, every single day, every minute, somewhere on the planet, someone is going through some crazy shit that they don't want to deal with, you know, whatever it may be. And if that ever comes my way of my family, I want to make sure that I've at least put myself in a position to hedge against that as much as possible to protect them.
Yeah.
So I think that's step one.
Step one. What's step two?
Step two might be what we just talked about before, is like just being confident in who we are. You know, because I could take everything I just said. Let's say somebody is in great shape. They know how to shoot. They're very confident with their hands and all that kind of stuff. They're prepped, you know, whatever, for the apocalypse or whatever. But if they're not confident to actually use those things, it doesn't matter. You could have the nicest guns in the world and the biggest Jeep in the world and all this stuff, but if you're not skilled at it, you're not practiced with it, you're not confident in how to deploy that under pressure and all that, like it literally doesn't matter. It actually could be a liability. Someone might just take that freaking gun from you that's more confident with it and use it against you. So you got to be confident in who you are and confident in what your skills are, especially when it comes to protecting and providing and all that. But then also the next thing I would say would be we have to be effective leaders. We have to lead ourselves first, which is a big thing we've been talking about here, is, you know, leading ourselves with confidence. And then that always gets pulled down and shown to the ones closest to us. You know, like my wife is extremely confident in Alpha. She's a fighter jet engineer, literally a fighter jet professional. Little 5'2" Italian, craziest, scariest little thing, you know, like, but she is. But she's the first to tell you that, like, she wants me to lead. She doesn't want to make big decisions. She wants to know that I got her.
Yeah.
From the crazy things I talked about, like protecting her and our kids, down to just, nope, I want you to make the majority of the decisions for the family. Like, she just wants that, because think how cool that is from that perspective, that she doesn't have to worry about making all these decisions. Not that she can't, of course she can. She's a freaking badass. She can build anything. She can build a house and she can fix a fighter jet and everything in between. But she gets kind of a peace of mind and an ability to relax more, knowing that I'm taking on a bigger role for the family. And she loves that. So there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with like stepping up and being like, nope, I'm the leader. Because it's not just that I'm in charge of what I say goes, it's I'm taking on that extra burden and I'm carrying extra responsibility for the people in my family. And that's like a service that we can give them.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it said that if you're responsible for something, then by default, you're in charge of leading that thing to some degree, right? And so I think it's so interesting. So the foundation is being capable to protect and provide for those that you love. That's kind of the foundational aspect. But also, the only way you really get there is by building the confidence and courage in yourself to be who you are and do what you need to do, right? And I often think that, you know, there's a difference between being a good man and being good at being a man.
Right.
And you hear that kind of contradiction and you're like, well, what does that mean? To me, I think it's doing what you know you should do regardless of how you feel.
Yeah.
You know, it's being able to lead yourself first in any environment. And if there's one thing that I've learned just through my experience, and you guys have far different experiences, that's what's great about these conversations, is we've all have our own different shared experiences, but it's like, at the end of the day, no one will do our push-ups for us. And the only way we can truly lead is if we're the one out there taking the action first and demonstrating.
Take action, baby.
Yeah,
take action, baby.
Take action. Yeah, because you have to be able to back up, what you say with action. A lot of people just get stuck with like having the right words, or
especially in the world we live in today.
Social
with social media and the way the world's working today, it's like virtue signal this. It's like online running your mouth about what you're capable of doing and what you have done, what you can do, and it's like, what are you actually doing?
Then you meet them in person, and you're just like, you're that guy.
You're that
what
guy.
The hell? You seem like completely different. Well, because you are. Because they're living behind this lens, So it's like, you got to be able to work and lead on yourself.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I do think we talk about social media for a minute. It's like, if you're a man and you tune into the news feeds of the platforms and you're like, everybody has a nicer house, they drive a better car, they make more money, they're in better shape, they live a better life. Like it's so easy to feel less than, right? And so that's why I do think it is imperative for all of us to figure out a way that we can show up as our authentic self, that we can build ourselves into the best version. I think, I've spent a lot of time trying to think of like, well, you talk about purpose. What's your purpose? How do you find it? What does that look like? And I don't know that there's one purpose, but if I was to say that, like, I've thought a lot about this, I think the purpose of life in so many ways is to create life on your own terms, right? And to get to a place where you are 100% comfortable with who you are and how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
And to me, that's my personal goal. How do I create life on my terms and then get to a place where I'm 100% comfortable with who I am and being myself? And I think that right there, you talk about freedom, like that's true freedom.
And that requires going back to the man in the mirror. You have to look at yourself and do the self-reflection to figure out what is that for you.
Right.
Because to the point of social media, it's like, you can be misled or you can follow your journey it's like everyone has their own journey and has their own desires and their own mission and purpose. Like, really need to be honest with yourself and do the work to discover what that is for you and not be misguided by what the next guy's doing or what the other, because there's infinite ways to do life and to be successful and to find, like, what is it for you though? Like, truly.
What every man should do this on a fairly regular basis, in my opinion. Ask yourself, take away everything, every influence, everything else. Ask yourself, what do I want? And then just sit with that for a minute. What do I want?
Yeah.
And it's not what do I want based on the money I make, or what do I want based on the business I have, or what do I want based on the family. No, take away everything and just think, what do I really want?
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't even ever, men and women, they just don't do that. Yeah. They find themselves 20, 30 years into a career of, doing what they're supposed to do.
I've been doing it this way for so long, I have to keep doing it.
And then you're like, man, how come I still can't buy what I want? How come I still can't go on vacation? How come I still am like not happy with what I do? Well, chances are you never asked yourself what you actually want. You just did what you're supposed to do, and now you've been going through the motions every day.
I've heard this analogy, and you can verify it because you're, like a badass fighter guy and all this stuff, fighter jet stuff. Like, if you're flying, right, and your course changes just a couple of millimeters.
Yeah.
Because of the gravitational of the earth and all the things, and like a couple millimeters in the wrong direction, and you could be thousands and thousands of miles away over a period of time. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting to ask this question, what do I want? I've kind of developed this process just almost by accident, where I would say every like 12 to 18 months, I find myself in a position where I just question everything in my life. Do I want to do this anymore? Should I do this? Do I like this?
Right.
And I think it often kind of starts from maybe a place of not being satisfied or maybe being frustrated. Like, there's been many seasons in Live Bearded's growth where Spence and I haven't had the results that we want. And we're like, fuck, do we want to do this anymore?
Right.
But it's such a powerful question because, to your point, like, we start off in a direction, and if we get a couple of millimeters off, you run that out over time. We might be trying to go to New York, but we end up in freaking, Florida or whatever because the direction is off. And so how do we get to a place where at a particular interval, we are questioning our assumptions or questioning everything that we believe to be true? There's a quote I love, and it's like, we question all of our beliefs except the ones that we truly believe. Those we never question. Mm-hmm. And I think those are the ones we need to question the most.
Yes. Yeah, ask yourself that question again. What do I want? Like, Live Bearded is badass, but if you guys are like, you know what, Live Bearded was a lot of fun. We did it for 10 years. Maybe it's time to do something else. If you guys really want to do that, that's a cool realization to have.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you just abandon ship right away, but maybe there's another way to go about it.
Yeah,
totally.
But, because if guys don't ask that, what do they want, we're all going somewhere. Like, every day we get up, we put on clothes, maybe we go to the gym, we get in our car, we go to work. Like, Imagine if you just got up and started driving and you drove for 20 years and just arbitrarily turned left, turned right, went slow, went fast, just kept on driving without aim, without a direction. Do you think you're going to end up where you want to go? No, you're going to end up wherever that end destination is, be like, well, where the hell am I? And that's what happens, because guys never think about what they want.
Yeah.
If they can get clear, if you can get clear on what it is that you actually want, then you can back up and make a plan on how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point about the airplane going off a degree or so, if you're like, okay, I want to go here, this is what I want in life, and here's the plan that I've developed to get there. And as you start executing that, you have to make sure you're still on that plan, because if you get 1 degree off, like you said, you might think you're still going to where you want to go to hit your end goal, but if you're a little bit off, oh shit, actually I missed the mark. The missile did not hit the target, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to keep analyzing, like, am I doing things every day that is actually taking me where I want to go with physically, mentally, spiritually, all the things, or whatever the main thing is that you're focusing on, and be willing to adjust.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other thing. Guys like even like you guys here, this brand, like kick-ass brand, like it's beautiful. Like I see it everywhere. It does very well. But I'm sure you are both willing to, like, you know what, if we need to change something, if Live Bearded needs to become something else for whatever reason, okay, cool, we'll talk about that. We'll consider it. A lot of people will get into something that's doing well and they'll sit there because it's comfortable. They're like, man, why would I give this up? I'm making a lot of money with this. I'm impacting a lot of lives. But if for some reason, like, it's just not sitting right anymore and it's just like driving you nuts, you got to be willing to consider maybe doing something else.
Yeah. I feel like Spence and I have been talking a lot about this recently, because you get to a place where you can even identify that maybe you're not going in the exact direction that you want, but then having the courage to make a decision to course correct. Like, that could be really difficult, whether it's in business or in life, relationships. Yeah, it's like, bringing awareness to it is step one,
right?
But then you've got to show up with the courage to actually do what needs to be done to make the changes. And there's that stupid saying, like, the devil that you know is better than the one that you don't. But it's, God, there's a really beautiful quote from Jim Rohn that I love. And he said, in life, we have 2 types of pain. We have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Right. Discipline is momentarily while we're practicing it.
Yeah.
But regret is forever.
Right.
And I think we all know men, and we've all came across experiences or people that they just took the road that wherever it went is where they ended up. And there's usually a lot of pain and regret associated with that. And what's crazy is it doesn't matter if you're 20 or 80. Like, you can start to be more intentional with your time today.
Oh yeah. I saw this graphic the other day, and it had like some of the most successful entrepreneurs on it. It had like Ray Kroc, and it had, you know, Bill Gates and all these different people on it. And it said the age that they became a millionaire. Most of them were, I think all of them, most of them were over 40.
Yeah.
Some of them were in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it wasn't because they'd just been building forever in every single case. Some of it was like, no, they were just doing whatever for so long and decided to make a change, decided to be more intentional with how they spent their time and energy and whatnot. Oh, and now that worked. That was the thing. So to your point, like, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you get up every day and you don't like what you do, like, are you going to keep doing that, or are you going to make a change?
Yeah.
Are you going to take action to do something different, or are you just going to put up with it and keep bitching about it?
Don't throw good money after bad. Like, make a change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, the only time I've felt truly, like, a level of true self-satisfaction is when I know I'm doing what I know I want to do, or what I should do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe what I want to do is not the right term, because there's a lot of things that you don't want to do that you have to do. But at least I know that, like, this is the direction that I want to go. This is the change that I need to make. And if I have the courage to do that and I'm showing up and doing the work, even if I'm miserable or I'm broke or I don't like it, there is that sense of fire or satisfaction that builds from knowing that you're being authentic and honest with yourself.
People get stuck on what other people think about them, and they just want to double down on that and to keep ignoring what's actually in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example that's really come to me personally from the True North experience, because it's physical, mental, spiritual, and tactical. I pretty much have always focused on the physical, mental, tactical, the money, the business, stuff like that, and haven't really put too much attention into the spiritual thing. So for me, I'm like, you know what? I want to do more. I want to check that out more. I want to dive into that. And I did. I was intentional with it. And I've been able to get a lot of answers for myself, a stronger connection with the higher power, whatever you want to call it. And for me, it's all internal. I'm like, oh, dude, I feel it. I feel like I'm winning. I'm at a better level of purpose in my life, and it's not even something you have to like try to share with anyone. It's like, what is it? What is inside you that needs to be addressed? And if you can get really clear on that, that is one of the coolest feelings in the world, you know. And so, to your point, it's what you want.
Yeah,
it's how you feel, and it's not just doing things or buying a certain brand or whatever because everyone else is going to see it and you want them to perceive you a certain way. Dude, forget all that, dude. Like, what do you actually want? If you're confident in your own skin, in your own beliefs about whatever, again, that's how you earn your freedom.
Yeah. There's two questions I have in a notepad to remind myself every day.
Okay.
And the first one is, what would my future self want my present self to do today? And so that idea of how do I pull that future self, that future man, that future success forward into today and do what he would want me to do today. That's the first one. And then
I've heard it called time piercing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can essentially, you're kind of talking to yourself today from the future. Mm-hmm. It's like, what does my future self think about the decision I'm about to make? What is my future self telling me that they want me to do? Because if you think about that, like 10 years down the road, like if you imagine, again, it goes back to what I want, right? If you think of what you want and you envision that life, what is the house like? Down to like great details. Andy Frisella says this all the time. He imagined down to the stitching color on his private jet for years, many years before he could even consider, renting a private jet. But he knew the color down to the seat stitching that he wanted, and now he has it. So you have to get clear on what it is that you want, and when you do that, start thinking about that guy who's 10 years older, 10 years down the road. What kind of actions are you telling yourself to make today? I heard it called time piercing. It's like, it's kind of neat because it's like, I don't know, like we can get kind of woo, maybe eat some mushrooms and keep talking about that. But it's like, but it makes sense to me. Like the decisions you make today are definitely affecting where you're going and the results down the road. Yeah. So maybe be quiet and listen to that guy. Like, okay, what should I do? What do you want me to do about this?
Yeah.
So that's a great question to ask all the time.
The life we are living in this moment was created by decisions we made
yesterday,
days, months, years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And so the same thing is being true. So what does that guy in the future want me to do today? Right. And then the other one is to this point of like being ourselves. Like we all struggle with that to some degree if we're honest. And it's like, I ask myself this question every day. What if I didn't give a single solitary fuck about what anybody else thought? How would I show up? What would I do? What would I say? What would I commit my time and energy to? And I think that I've spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins. He's like, I had a chance to do all of this stuff. And he always said, questions are the answer. If we want a better answer, we have to ask a better question.
Sure.
And most people are saying, why am I so fat? Or why am I broke? Well, you can find an answer to that. Or how do I get fit? How do I get rich? Like you could also find an answer to that. So those are two questions that I like to ask myself every day just for framing or priming. And if there was any advice I would share with other guys, it's like find a couple of questions that haunt you and then ask them over and over. And those types of questions that pull you forward, that have a positive assumption or presupposition in them. So you're trying to change the way that you think about certain things.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. We talked earlier about Navy and aerospace, and that all led to us being here talking today. Well, I want to know what I want me to do 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to health, I've been diving really deep into that. I'm like, okay, I'm finally learning what my genetic, my genetic
disposition.
Yeah, what's the word?
Disposition?
Yeah, I'll just say that, whatever. I've been learning some stuff about my body that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I do have a sensitivity to salt. I have a harder time processing iron and chloride and a couple other things. So that's why I think I've been probably eating more meat, but I just learned that my body has a hard time processing saturated fat. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to do my 10-year from now self a favor and drastically reduce eating saturated fat. And I'm going to do these things so in 10 years I can be in better shape when I'm 50. So it applies to everything, to business, to health, to relationships, everything.
Yeah. I love this thread of just self-reflection and asking these questions, because I think as men, it's so easy to just put your head down and do the work. You wake up early, you hit the gym, you do whatever work's necessary, you provide for others, you go for others, and that's part of being a man, right?
Yeah.
This self-reflection's it's not talked about nearly as much.
Yeah.
Taking the time to pause, to reflect, to ask these questions, and really be with yourself.
And it's easy. I think it's actually a strong trait. It's not a weak trait.
Super
to
strong.
Kind of sit and
100%.
meditate. It's like, well, dude, because the flip side is you're going to just work forever and then end up probably somewhere you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cliche, but this is a form of putting your oxygen mask on first, right?
Yes.
It's like, how do you build your strength, your foundation, who you are, so that then you have a greater capacity to support and serve. Yeah.
Love that.
Where can people find you at? How can they follow along the journey, support you, get involved in your coaching and your different programs?
All the business stuff is on earnitall.com.
Okay.
There's different landing pages you can go check out there
Yeah,
for health and for apparel and whatnot. And then truenorth.ninja is our truenorth.ninja is our men's retreat. Our next one is July 9th in Sedona.
Yep.
So that's men only. It's an application base. We just make sure that there's a couple things that we all align on. Got to make sure that you can do kind of some baseline physical fitness type stuff. We had a guy ask, if he could come up in a wheelchair, and while the facility's ADA accessible, like it's not really a great experience if everyone's leaving for a day on a big 8-mile hike and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, we just make sure that, everyone can do it. But we are actually planning on doing a women's version as well. We've had a lot of women say, hey, I want to do that. And I was like, you mean, like, no, exactly that. I don't want to do the ladies retreats that I see with wine and yoga and this other stuff. They're like, I want that. I want to learn how to fight from Michael Johnson at Shockwave Defense. I want to learn how to shoot from your Ranger buddies. I want to do that cold water, that sweat lodge. I want to do exactly what you're doing. And we've heard that so many times now that we're going to do a women's one as well.
That's cool.
Sick.
And then my Instagram is Justin J. Cross.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
What would be some final thoughts, things that you would say to the guys out there, and maybe a final send-off?
We only get one shot at this, so why not give it the best shot?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's true. Like, una vida, one life,
Yeah.
It's true. It's kind of a cliche thing, but it's like, dude, we're only here one time, so really who gives a shit about all the stuff you're worried about? Nobody. It's only you. Only you are worrying about the shit. I heard this quote a bunch of times. It said, like, if I was to die today, a week from now, most people would just, whatever. Like, if you probably didn't, they don't
think
care
about you
what
again.
you said.
Yeah.
They didn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So you're so worried about what other people think, but in reality is they really don't care. It's just kind of this weird culture that we're in, especially with social media, where everyone just kind of antagonizes each other. And so it's like, dude, just realize you only get one shot at this. So fucking get healthy and stay healthy. That's number one. And then all the other stuff, like, cool, we can do that too. But it's my parting shot. Get freaking healthy and stay healthy.
Amazing.
Let's go, bro.
Thanks
Love
for
it.
coming and hanging out with us, bro.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, if you've been tuning in this whole time, thank you for your support. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be back next week for some more.
All right.
All right, guys.